Welcome back to our live training session. We're going to be taking a look at how to dial our full throttle operation in here for our supercharged Gen 2 Coyote setup. Now, obviously we've built out the base file, we've done all the tuning up to this point, we're now ready to go into that full throttle operation. We need to make sure some things are in order, taking a look real quickly at our VCT schedule, making sure that makes sense. Also taking a look at our spark timing. Very important that we have conservative, safe spark timing to start out with here so that we can do our pulls, get our fueling sorted out, evaluate our spark timing, maybe bump a little bit of spark timing in, and then lastly we can experiment with our VCT schedule, just seeing if we can get any more power out of moving the intake and exhaust cams a bit in their phasing as we're going in and trying to rotate them around. So dialing in or out overlap. Let's jump in here. Let's take a look at a few things in our calibration file. Then we're going to fire up the engine. We're going to do a baseline pull up here to probably about 6,000 RPM just to feel things out, make sure everything looks good. Then we'll do a complete pull up to probably 7,000 to be conservative, and then we'll just calibrate and tune from there. Now, two things I want to point out, and as we were building our base file, I talked about these details. First detail, we only have 47-pound injectors in our fuel system, so we're likely to be limited on injector size. Now, I have set up the ESS supercharger with about a 7-8 pound pulley, so we should be okay for fueling with the upgraded DW400 pump with these 47-pound injectors. Ideally, I'd probably want to have larger injectors. I just had these in here already from when this was naturally aspirated. I had upgraded everything in the plans of adding a supercharger onto this, so this may or may not be a limiting factor. So I'm going to keep the RPM at 7,000 maximum here on the dyno until we evaluate what the injector duty cycle's at. We don't want to go to 100% duty cycle and run lean. We'd like to stay at about 90-95% maximum. The second detail is I did not replace the oil pump gears on this engine yet. That is something I plan to do in the future, and I don't want to over rev the engine too high and cause those oil pump gear to break. That could be very problematic, obviously toast the engine. So we're going to be conservative with this on the dyno. So I wanted to point out those two factors. I am not going to go higher than 7,000 RPM, even if we're not out of fuel, just to be safe. And the RPM limiter, we had set everything at 7,400, so we shouldn't tap it off limiter on the dyno. We should be completely fine. So yes, this probably would make more power if we revved it out to 8,000 or 7,800. If I had those two other details in order here, then I would gladly do so. But just to keep things safe, I'm going to be conservative with this. All right. Let's jump in here and take a look at a few things. Now, the file I have open here is watt tuning. It's the same file as we were dealing with in the last tutorial. I just saved it as a new name. We don't need to upload or do anything because it is going to be the same information, just new file name. So when we make our changes in this tutorial, we can save it to this file and flash it from this file name. This is going to be found in your training course folder under the 2017 Mustang ESS Live if you want to open up this file here and take a look at things. Okay, let's go here into engine. And first thing I want to talk about is going to be our spark timing. Now in our spark timing, we know that we have this system that it goes borderline is what it should be riding on in normal operation. Once we get about 0.4, 0.5 load and higher, it'll then ride on borderline values. And then the knock system, if it doesn't see knock, it's going to add knock advance to the borderline. And it's only going to add as much advance, let's say it's ability to add 10 degrees advance, just for an example, and the borderline is set at 20 degrees. It can go up to 30 degrees of timing. However, if maximum brake torque, pre-ignition, or cylinder pressure limit are going to have a value that's, let's say, lower than that 30 degrees that it could run, it's going to cap the timing at that. We're not going to be able to run any more of it. So in this situation, if we take a look, maximum brake torque, we're going to be operating at map points 14 through 20 essentially. Let's look here at 19 and 20. This is what should be used primarily at full throttle. Let's look at 20, just pop in and take a look at this real quick. We're going to find here, scaled up to about 1.5 engine load. That should be equivalent to about 7-8 pounds of boost, positive manifold pressure. We're going to see in here, the timing is 26, 27, it goes to 21 degrees, depending on kind of where you're at in the table here. If we're looking at something like our pre-ignition limit in that same range, we're going to notice that the timing here is slightly higher or lower depending on where we're at in the table. So let's pop in here to cylinder pressure limit. We're going to find the timing in here is definitely going to be lower, again, depending on kind of where we're looking at in the table and referencing. So what we might find is our spark source is going to either use pre-ignition limit or cylinder pressure limit or MBT as the spark source as we're going and doing our full throttle pulls. Now, ideally, we'd like to see it stay on borderline. What we're going to find is that the combination of one of these three tables is going to provide the cap or the top it's able to go out in ignition timing. It's not going to go beyond that. Let's take a look at a couple additional things here. Under the retard, looking down here, the retard max and advance, we're only allowing it to add 2 degrees of timing to the borderline values. That's on purpose because I want to give it a very short leash and what it can actually advance. So if we see that it's constantly adding 2 degrees of timing in a pull, we'll sneak in maybe another degree or two of timing and see what it looks like, see if it starts to retard any of the timing or not add up to the 2 degrees advance. As soon as I start to see it not adding, then I'm going to back off the timing that I'm adding. So we might have to do a pull, 2, maybe 3 pulls most to figure out where the timing needs to be at. Now on this pulley size, about 7 to 8 PSI, I would expect us safely to be around 16 to 20 degrees of spark timing range on petrol fuel. So we should lie somewhere in that range. If, for example, the knock control saying that I could run more spark advance than 20 degrees, for example, I'm not going to go any higher than that. I don't want to be aggressive with this, even if the dyno is showing that I'm gaining some power. So it's usually when I'm dealing with a pump gas setup, I'll keep a short leash on this, again, with the maximum advance it can run, and then the total advance that I want to see the engine operate.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.